Now, spermatogenesis is a very complex process, and I want to go through it in detail because it explains a lot of the genetics that we have going on. Remember, all of it is taking place here. The birth of the sperm, which goes on all through mature life, is a continuing process, but the maturation occurs primarily right here in the testis. If we look at the next slide, this is the outside, and then we have some smooth muscle here. Here's a capillary, and we have a bunch of cells here that you might want to look at first. This is called an interstitial endocrinocyte. By now, certainly you know that means an endocrine hormone is being made here in this cell or site, and it's called the Leydig cell, and it produces testosterone. This is where the male hormone that we've seen before that looks very much like the female hormone estrogen, has a slight difference in its radicals, is produced to nurture and encourage the production of the spermatic cells. We have something here called the basement membrane. I just want to let you see it because we're going to talk about it in our last lecture on cancer, but most tissues have a basement membrane made of collagen, a protein layer that's tough and separates it from other areas in the tissue. Now what happens first is we have the spermatogenic cells. These are immature cells, also called spermatogonium, or stem cells. And I'm going to bring you to another slide to show you the actual genetics of the DNA. This is the stem cell from which all the other cells arise. And these mature literally down here in the basal layer, right next to the basement membrane, and they do actually migrate up as they get more matured. This spermatogonium has what we call 2N. N is the number of chromosomes. And when you have the chromosomes of both your mother and your father in a single cell, which every other cell in your body has, except the germ cells, then that's called 2N. N is from the mother, N is from the father, and that number is 2N in these cells, because these are just like the rest of your body's cells. Then the next cell, called the spermatogonia, start to make their way up, and we get something here called this primary spermatocyte. And notice they have little bridges between them, so information can be shared as well as material can be shared. It is still 2N. And as it matures, we then undergo more divisions, and we have something called a secondary spermatocyte, and something has happened between here and here. And I'll go into what that is, but basically now we only have the number of chromosomes that would be in one or the other parent's germ cells. Finally, maturation takes place, and the cytoplasmic bridge is not broken until we get back up into what are called the spermatotids. Here's an early one, just developing a little tail, and then we get the late ones, and finally we get to the mature sperm cell, which is also called a spermatozoon, and it has the single number, or the haploid half number of total chromosomes. Every other cell in your body has diploid number, meaning all the chromosomes from mother and father. This one has the haploid number, as does the ovum that comes out of an egg. They do literally sit there tethered like a boat and a dock with their head buried in the tissue. This is the lumen, and the tails are sitting here flailing away in the lumen of the duct that's going to lead them away when they are released and matured from the testicle. This whole process takes about 2 to 3 months from the time that one of these stem cells develops and matures and gets up here to be a fully matured sperm cell. We have something else here called a Sertoli cell, or a sustentacular cell, which is also providing nourishment through the tissues for the spermatogonia.